There's a lie that keeps getting repeated in Formula One, and it sounds like this. Max Verstappen is reckless. That he drives on instinct. That he survives on aggression. That he wins because he's willing to crash where others back out. But here's the uncomfortable truth that rivals don't like admitting. Max Verstappen is one of the lowest risk drivers on the grid, and that's exactly why he keeps winning. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why Verstappen's crashes are rare, why his close calls are misunderstood, and why most drivers think they're being brave, while Max is simply being smarter. And if you're already feeling uncomfortable, good, that's where the truth lives. Let's start with a simple observation that most fans never question. Over the last several seasons, Verstappen has raced more aggressively than almost anyone in Formula One. Wheel-to-wheel, high-speed, late-braking, millimetre precision. And yet, statistically, he is not among the drivers with the highest crash rate. In fact, when you look at DNFs caused by driver error, Max consistently ranks lower than many drivers considered safe. So how does a driver who constantly lives on the edge somehow avoid falling off it? The answer isn't talent alone, it's not luck, and it's definitely not fearlessness. It's calculation. Max Verstappen doesn't avoid crashes because he takes fewer risks. He avoids crashes because he understands risk better than anyone else on the grid. Most drivers treat risk like a binary switch. Yes or no. Go or don't go. Attack or defend. Max treats risk like a sliding scale, something that changes corner by corner, lap by lap, even meter by meter. And this is where the gap begins. When a typical driver approaches an overtake, their brain asks, "Can I make this move?" Max's brain asks something far more complex. What happens if I make this move? And what happens if I don't? That sounds subtle. It isn't. Because while others calculate only the risk of crashing, Max calculates the risk of losing control of the race narrative. That's why his moves feel inevitable. Here's where fans often get it wrong. They see Verstappen squeeze a rival to the edge of the track and think, that's dangerous. But what they don't see is that Max has already mapped out the exit, the grip level, the tyre temperature, the angle of the steering input, and the rival's likely reaction, all before the braking zone even arrives. He's not gambling. He's closing variables. This is why drivers back out against him more often than they admit. Quick pause. Let me ask you something. How many times have you seen a driver almost make a move on Max and then suddenly disappear from the mirrors? Exactly. That's not intimidation, that's prediction. Now here's the part that makes rivals uncomfortable. Max Verstappen does not drive to avoid crashing. He drives to avoid uncertainty. That's a huge difference. Most drivers leave space just in case. Max leaves space only when he knows it won't cost him time, position, or control. If he closes a door, it's because he knows exactly where the other car can't go. And when there is uncertainty, rain, cold tyres, changing wind, that's where Verstappen becomes even more dangerous. Because chaos increases risk, but only if you don't understand it. Max thrives in unstable conditions because instability gives him more information than it gives his rivals. While others react, he recalibrates. While others hesitate, he commits. And commitment, when backed by calculation, is devastating. Now let's talk about the myth that refuses to die, that Verstappen crashes people out. Here's a fact that rarely gets discussed. In most of Max's controversial incidents, the collision occurs because the other driver misjudges Max's line, not because Max misjudges the corner. That's crucial. He doesn't leave space based on hope, he leaves space based on physics. And if the other car isn't positioned correctly, he assumes, correctly, that they'll be forced to yield. Is that aggressive? Yes. Is it reckless? No. Recklessness is acting without knowing the outcome. Verstappen acts because he knows the outcome. And this is where his risk calculation becomes almost surgical. He understands that in modern Formula One, the biggest danger isn't crashing, it's losing momentum. losing track position, losing control of strategy, losing psychological dominance. So when Max commits to a move, it's because he has already decided that backing out would be more dangerous than going through. That's why he rarely hesitates mid-corner. Hesitation is where... Now let's connect this to something very important. Why Verstappen almost never crashes alone. Solo crashes, spins, lockups into barriers, unforced errors are signs of miscalculated limits. And Verstappen's understanding of limits is terrifyingly accurate. He knows exactly how much grip he has. He knows exactly how much tyre life he's burning. He knows exactly how much margin exists between speed and disaster. And he's comfortable operating within millimetres of that margin because he's not guessing where it is. This comes from years of being trained not to drive safely, but to drive precisely. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Many drivers are taught to avoid risk. Max was taught to control it. That's why even when he pushes the car into oversteer, it doesn't surprise him. He expects it, he invites it, and then he manages it. Now let's talk about Racecraft, because this is where his risk calculation really separates him. When Max defends a position, he doesn't defend every corner. He defends the most expensive corner. He knows which corner leads to the longest straight, which braking zone creates the biggest overtaking opportunity, which sector matters most for lap time and tyre degradation. So he accepts risk in low-value corners and eliminates risk in high-value ones. That's not aggression, that's resource management. And rivals fall into the trap every time. They think, he's giving me a chance here. No, he's giving you a false opportunity, and the moment you take it, you're out of position for the next sequence. Exactly where Max wants you. Now here's the cliffhanger moment I promised earlier. What happens when Formula One changes again? What happens in 2026 when cars become lighter, power delivery becomes more complex, and drivers have to manage energy deployment manually under pressure? Here's the scary part for the grid. Those regulations don't punish drivers who push, they punish drivers who miscalculate. And Max Verstappen has built his entire career around not miscalculating. He already treats throttle, brake, steering and battery deployment as one integrated system. Not separate controls, he already adapts corner by corner. He already thinks faster than the car underneath him, which means that when others are learning where the limits are, Max will already be operating inside them. Quick pause. If you're still watching right now, you're exactly the kind of F1 fan this channel is built for. So do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. Not because I'm begging, but because future you will be annoyed if you miss the next breakdown. And smash the like button too. It tells the algorithm this video deserves to exist. Now let's land this. Max Verstappen doesn't rarely crash because he's lucky. He doesn't rarely crash because he's conservative. He rarely crashes because he understands risk as information, not danger. Every move he makes reduces uncertainty. Every defense he chooses reshapes the race. Every aggressive moment is backed by calculation that most drivers never see until it's too late. And that's why rivals don't just lose positions to him, they lose confidence. So here's my question for you, and I want you to answer it in the comments. Do you think Verstappen is the smartest driver on the grid, or just the most misunderstood? Because the difference between those two answers says everything about how you watch Formula One. If you want to go deeper into this world, my next video breaks down how Verstappen's mindset could dominate the 2026 era even harder than before. Click it on your screen right now. I'll see you there.